Hello. You know the stereotype, a hyperactive little boy who can't sit still in class. But for millions of women, ADHD isn't about running around the room, it's about the chaos running around inside your head. In this video, we are opening the ADHD Women Catalogue. We are going to name the silent struggles, from the pain of task paralysis to the crushing weight of rejection-sensitive dysphoria, so you can finally stop asking, what is wrong with me?
Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a side of ADHD that so often goes unseen, especially in women. We're going way beyond that textbook picture to explore a kind of hidden catalog of experiences, one that's been built from the voices of the community itself. I mean, be honest, for most of us, it's probably a young boy, right? Just bouncing off the walls, can't sit still in class. And look, that's a classic stereotype we've all seen for decades. That reality is absolutely part of the story, but it's nowhere near the whole story. You see, for so many women, and really anyone with what's called the inattentive presentation, the hyperactivity isn't on the outside for everyone to see. It's an internal storm, a constant, restless buzz of thoughts that's completely invisible from the outside. So this explainer, it's all about making that internal world visible. So here's our game plan. We're going to break this all down into 5 key areas. We'll start inside the mind, then we'll look at that frustrating gap between thinking and doing. After that, we'll explore the emotional side, see how it literally shows up in the body, and then finally, we'll talk about a new way to look at this whole thing. First up, the inner world. This is all about what is happening behind the scenes, the unique and often chaotic ways the brain is processing thoughts, memories, and just everything. So what does this inner world actually feel like? Well, you've got things like maladaptive daydreaming, and this isn't just zoning out. We're talking about a full-on escape into this incredibly detailed inner story. Then there is internal hyperactivity, which is basically that classic hyperactivity just turned inward. It's a brain that just will not shut off, ever. There's also auditory processing disorder, where you can hear the words someone is saying, but it's like your brain can't quite catch them and figure out what they mean. And finally, the social version of object permanence, where if people aren't right in front of you, your brain can kind of forget they exist. It's not because you don't care, it's a working memory thing. And this quote, wow, it just perfectly captures how absorbing that inner world can be. It's not just a little distraction, it's a full-blown production. And it makes sense, right? It's a way for an understimulated brain to get the input it craves. And it's also a fantastic escape hatch when the real world gets boring or just too much. This brings us to a super weird part of this, the memory paradox. On the one hand, your short-term or working memory can feel like a sieve. You forget why you walked into a room or what you were literally just about to say. But then on the other hand, your long-term memory can be photographic. You can recall some random, detailed conversation from 30 years ago like it was yesterday. It's like the information is in there, but the filing and retrieval system is a little chaotic. Okay, so that's the inner world. Now let's talk about what happens when that inner world has to interact with the outer world. This section is all about executive dysfunction, which is just a fancy way of saying there's a huge, frustrating gap between knowing you need to do something and actually physically doing it. And at the heart of this is something called task paralysis. It literally feels like there's an invisible wall between your brain's intention and your body's action. And let me be super clear here, this has absolutely nothing to do with being lazy or not having willpower. It is a neurological traffic jam in the brain's activation system. And you can just feel the raw, gut-wrenching frustration of that experience in this quote. I mean, can you imagine wanting to do something, needing to do it, and your own brain just refuses to hit the go button? It's completely exhausting.
This gap shows up in other ways too, like with habits. Simple things that are automatic for most people, like brushing your teeth, never become automatic. Every single time, it takes conscious effort. Then there's time blindness, where time just feels slippery. It's hard to feel it passing, which leads to either being chronically late or being so anxious about it that you're an hour early for everything. And of course, decision paralysis. When you're faced with too many choices, even something simple like what to watch on TV, the brain can just short circuit and freeze.
Okay, next up, let's get into the heart of it all. This part is about the emotional experience, that intense, often hidden world of feelings and social interactions that comes with this brain wiring. Now, a massive piece of this puzzle is something called rejection-sensitive dysphoria, or RSD. It isn't an official diagnosis yet, but for so many people, it's the most challenging part of their ADHD. This isn't just being sensitive. It is a severe, almost physical pain that comes from perceived criticism or rejection. It can feel like a punch to the gut and can be totally paralyzing. This emotional intensity also shows up as, well, dysregulation. Deep, sudden swings into anxiety or sadness that might be completely hidden from the outside. And to cope with all of this, many people develop what's called a mask. It's this constant, exhausting performance of being normal, which often leads to intense people-pleasing. And then there's this really interesting one, justice sensitivity. A deep, visceral, almost physical reaction to unfairness, whether it's happening to you or to someone else. And we need to touch on something really important here, and do it carefully. When that mental pain and overwhelm get to an extreme level, some people can have these intrusive thoughts about just not existing anymore. The source material is really clear that this is different from active, planned depression. It's more like the brain desperately searching for an escape hatch from an unbearable feeling. But it is a critical sign of just how severe the distress can be. All right, let's shift gears now and talk about how all of this actually lands in the body. Because ADHD isn't just in your head, it is a full-body neurological condition. Yeah, we've got to bust this myth one more time. Just because you don't see someone running around the room doesn't mean the hyperactivity isn't there. It's just hidden. So where is it hiding? It's in the small stuff, the constantly tapping foot, the hair twirling, the clenched jaw, the grinding teeth. It's in what's called dysregulated interoception, where your internal body signals go from 0 to 100. You don't feel a little hungry, you're suddenly starving. You don't get a little tired, you just hit a wall. All of this leads to this deep, chronic fatigue from the constant mental gymnastics and often terrible sleep. And it can even pop up in things like writing, having all these amazing ideas but struggling to get them on the page, or even just navigating, like getting lost all the time. So we've just walked through this entire catalog of traits in our minds, our actions, our emotions, and our bodies. For this last part, let's just take a step back and shift how we're looking at this whole list. This right here, this is probably the most important thing to take away from our entire conversation today. After hearing all these challenges, it is so easy to see this as a checklist of personal flaws, but that is completely missing the point. The goal here isn't to fix, it's to understand. This quote from the original source material just says it all, doesn't it? This is not a diagnostic test you have to pass. It is a catalog for discovery. It's a tool, a language to help you finally make sense of experiences that might have felt random and isolating your whole life. It's about finding yourself, or maybe understanding someone else, with a lot more compassion. You know, when we start to see ADHD, especially these quieter forms, as this huge, diverse spectrum of human experience, it doesn't just change a potential diagnosis. It changes everything. It changes how we support each other, how we build our workplaces and our schools, and maybe most importantly, how we approach ourselves and the people we love with just a little more grace and a little more understanding. Thanks for joining me for this Explain.
If you found yourself nodding along to this catalog, feeling like someone finally explained what's happening inside your head, that is the power of validation. Remember, this video is just a quick summary of the book's deep dive into these symptoms. It's not a direct quote, but a guide. If you want the full map to your brain, click the link in the description to download the free overview or grab the book. You don't have to navigate the storm alone anymore. Thanks for watching.